In this video, we are covering Surveying and Geomatics Module 4. The topics are elements of simple and compound curves, methods of setting out, elements of reverse curve, elements of transition curve, vertical curves, and total station. So first and foremost, we need to know what a curve basically means. So curves are employed to make the change of direction at intersection of straight lines to be gradual. That is, it is generally used on highways and railways to change the direction smoothly so that the vehicles can move safely and comfortably. So, curves are of two types, circular curves and non-circular curves. Here we can deal with circular curves. Circular curves are again divided into three types, simple curves, compound curves and reverse curves. First, we'll look into simple curves. So, a simple curve consists of one arc of constant radius, that is, its radius does not change, and this is the most commonly used types of curve. The notations of the curves are back tangent or first tangent, which is represented as AT1 in the figure, which is a tangent previous to the curve, and forward tangent or second tangent, which is expressed as BT2, is the tangent which follows the curves. Next comes the point of intersection or vertex. If the tangents AT1 and BT2, when they are produced, they will meet at a point, and this point is called as the point of intersection. Point of curve. This point is where the curve changes its alignment from straight to a curve. That is basically the beginning point of a curve expressed as T1 in the figure. Next is point of tangency, that is the end point of curve, that is T2. Intersection angle. It is the angle between the two tangents, that is tangents AV and tangent VB. Next comes the deflection angle, expressed as delta. It is the external angle between the two tangents, that is the angle between PI and tangents AV and VB. Next comes tangent distance, that is the distance between point of curve and point of intersection. Next is the long chord, which is the chord joining point of curve and point of tangency, that is T1, T2 in the figure. Next we'll move on to elements of simple circular curve. First is length of curve, which is represented as small l. It is the total length of curve from point of curve to point of tangency. L is given as the length of the arc T1, C, T2, which is equal to radius into delta, when a delta is in radians, and it is equal to r into delta into pi by 180 when delta is in degrees. Second is tangent length, expressed as capital T. Here Vt1 and Vt2 are the tangent lengths, which is given as T equal to r into tan delta by 2. Third one is length of chord, which is expressed as capital L. It is the length of the longest chord to T1, T2, which is equal to twice the length of T1D, which is equal to 2r into sine delta by 2. The fourth one is external distance or apex distance, expressed as capital E. It is the distance from the midpoint of the curve to point of intersection. E equal to distance of VC, which is equal to OV minus OC, which is finally equal to R into sec delta by 2 minus 1. Fifth one is mid-ordinate, expressed as capital M. It is the distance CD in the figure, which is given as r into 1 minus cos delta by 2. Then next comes the relationship between the radius and degree of the curve. The expression is r equal to 1145.92 by d, where d is the degree of the curve. Designation of the curve. So the sharpness of the curve can be expressed in terms of radius and in terms of degree of curvature. Setting out simple curves. So setting out of simple curves can be done by two methods. One is by the linear method, where only chains or tapes is used, and the other is by angular method or instrumental method, where instruments such as theodolite is used to measure. We can look into angular methods. There are basically three types: Rankine's method of tangential angles, theodolite method, and tachyometric method. We'll look into Rankine's method in detail. So in this method, the curve is set out by using tangential angles or deflection angles with the help of a theodolite and a chain or a tape. So the derivation of the formula for calculating deflection angle is as follows. From the figure, we can write angle T1 OP1 equal to 2 into angle BT1 P1, which is equal to 2 into delta 1. But we know that chord T1 P1 is similar to arc T1 P1, so the distance will be around similar. So we can write the expression angle T1 OP1 by L1 equal to 360 by 2 pi r. From here, the expression for angle T1 OP1 is equated. We get 2 delta 1 equal to 360 into L1 by 2 pi r, and finally delta 1 equal to 360 into L1 by 2 into 2 pi r degrees. Next we convert into minute second. So delta 1 equal to 360 into 60 into L1 by 2 into 2 pi r, which eventually expressed as 1718.9 into L1 by r minute second. So similarly, delta 2 equal to 1718.9 into L2 by r, delta 3 equal to 1718.9 into L3 by r. So the general expression is delta n equal to 1718.9 into Ln by r minutes. But when the degree of the curve d is given, delta n is expressed as d into Ln by 60 degree. So finally, the arithmetic check equals delta 1 plus delta 2 etc. plus delta n equal to intersection angle by 2. Next, we'll move on to compound curves. So compound curves is a combination of two or more simple circular curves but with different radius having the curvature in the same direction. So compound curves are basically required when space restrictions happen or when there are property boundaries. These compound curves are used. So in this figure, we can see that there are two curves. First part of the curve with radius r1 and the second part of the curve with radius r2. So the elements of the compound curves are, we know that there are two radius, that is r1 smaller radius, r2 longer radius in this figure. The common tangent MDN, delta 1, which is the deflection angle between the back tangent and the common tangent, delta 2 equal to deflection angle between common tangent and the forward tangent. Then delta is the total deflection angle. Ts is the length of the tangent to the arc T1D. TL is the length of the tangent to the arc DT2. Then Ts is the tangent length T1V corresponding to the smaller radius. TL is the tangent length VT2 corresponding to the longer radius. The next type of curve is reverse curve. A reverse curve consists of two circular arcs with or without the same radii, but their centers will be facing the opposite side of the common tangent at the point of reverse curvature. So simply speaking, two simple curves opposite in direction constitute a reverse curve. These reverse curves are used to connect two parallel roads or railway lines, or when the two lines intersect at a very small angle. Looking at the elements of the reverse curve, it has two radii, that is r1 and r2. So here in this figure, the two arcs or the two curves are having different radii. Then the deflection angles delta 1 and delta 2, the total deflection angle delta. The expression for the total deflection angle is given as delta equal to 180 minus whole bracket 180 minus delta 2 plus delta 1. Transition curves. A curve of varying radius is known as transition curve. So in this, the radius can vary from infinity to certain fixed values. It is also called as spiral or Eastman curve. So as to why we need a transition curve, it avoids abrupt change from straight to circular paths. So it introduces a gradual transition of change in direction. And this helps in avoiding the jerks or shocks and discomfort for the vehicles. And it avoids overturning due to centrifugal force. Next, we can look what are the requirements for an ideal transition curve. First, it should meet the original straight line tangentially. Next, it should meet the circular curve tangentially. Third, its radius at the junction with the circular curve should be as same as that of the circular curve. Then the rate of increase of curvature along the transition curve should be same as that of increase of super elevation. And last, the length should be such that the full super elevation is attained at the junction with the circular curve. So we need to know what super elevation means. Super elevation is basically the difference in height between the two sides of the road. So in this figure we can see there's a slight elevation on the outer surface of the road. This is super elevation. So looking at this figure, we can derive the formula for super elevation. The centrifugal force to the center is given as mv square by r. The weight of the vehicle is given by W equal to mg. So in this triangle, when we take tan alpha will be equal to mv square by r by weight mg. Then super elevation expression is given as S equal to B into mv square by r into 1 by mg, which is equal to bv square by gr. Elements of transition curves. First is spiral angle. It is the angle between the straight and the tangent at the junction of the transition curve. It is expressed as delta S, and the expression is given as delta S equal to L by 2R when in radians. And to convert it into minutes, we multiply by 180 by pi into 60. So the expression becomes delta S equal to 1718 L by R, where L is the length of the transition curve in meters and R is the radius of the curve in meters. The second is shift. So in order to introduce the transition curve between the straights and a circular curve, the main curve is shifted inwards, and this displacement is called as shift. It's expressed as S, and the expression is S equal to L square by 24R. Third one is deflection angle. So the expression for deflection angle for a transition curve is alpha equal to 573 L square by RL, where small l is the distance of any point along the transition curve, capital L is the length of transition curve, and R is the radius of circular curve in meters. So when we look at the last point of the transition curve, alpha equal to 573 capital L square by RL. So the expression becomes 573 L by R. And when we multiply and divide by 3, the expression becomes alpha equal to 1718 L by 3R, which is equal to spiral angle by 3. Next, the length of the transition curve should be such that the full super elevation is attained at the end of the transition curve and applied at a suitable rate. So for finding the length, we have three methods, that is by rate of super elevation, by time rate, and last by rate of change of radial acceleration. So we can look at the first method, that is by an arbitrary gradient or rate of super elevation. So if we consider super elevation E is provided at an arbitrary rate, say 1 in n, then L, that is the length of the transition curve, is given by L equal to n into E, where L is in meters. Second method is by time rate. So here, time taken by the vehicle to pass the transition curve T is taken as L by V, where capital L is the length of the transition curve and V is the speed of the vehicle. Then the super elevation is given by T into R. So putting the expression of T in this equation, we get L by V into R. So this is equal to super elevation E, and from this we get the equation of length equal to EV by R in meters. The third method by rate of change of radial acceleration. So here the time taken by the vehicle to pass the transition curve is taken as t equal to L by V, and the radial acceleration attained at this time is equal to alpha into t, where alpha equal to rate of change of radial acceleration in meter per second square per second. Then equating the two expressions, we get length equal to V cube by alpha r. Then the last type of curve is vertical curves. So a curve used to connect two grade lines of railway or highway is called as vertical curve. Such a curve is introduced to obtain a gradual change in the gradient so that the vehicles can pass without experiencing any shock or sudden jerks. And there are basically two types of vertical curves. First is a sag curve and the second is a summit curve. We can see the diagram. So in a sag curve, it is provided when a falling gradient joins a rising gradient. That is, the vertical curve which has its convexity downwards is called as a sag curve, and in summit curve the vertical curve has its convexity upwards. That is, it is provided when a rising gradient joins a falling gradient. Our next topic is electronic distance measurement or EDM. So we know that the distance measurement can be done in two ways, that is indirect distance measurement and direct distance measurement. So in direct distance measurement, we use tapes or chains to measure the distance. And in indirect measurement, it is divided again into two, that is geometrical and electronic. So in geometrical, we use optical measures, and in electronics, we use wave physics. So EDM, as the name suggests, it measures the distance using electronic methods. So the instruments rely on the propagation, reflection and reception of radio or infrared waves. And the EDM instruments are geodemeter, tellurometer and distomats. So here we can see a typical electromagnetic wave. This is the sinusoidal waveform. As we can see, it has a positive half cycle and a negative half cycle. So both of these make one complete cycle. So now we can look at the properties of EM waves. So as said, it completes a cycle in moving from identical points, that is one positive half cycle and one negative half cycle makes one complete cycle. Then frequency, represented as a small f, is the number of times a wave completes a cycle in 1 second. Then wavelength, lambda, it is the length traversed in 1 second. Then time period, expressed as capital T, it is the time taken to travel through one cycle. Then last, velocity, it is the distance traveled in 1 second. So the expression for frequency is given as f is equal to c by lambda, where c is the velocity of light, or it is again expressed as 1 by t, where t is the time period. So the principle of EDM is that here we can see there are two instruments, that is one is the EDM instrument and other is the reflector. So what basically happens is that this EDM instrument transmits a wave, and at the reflector, these waves are reflected back to the EDM instrument, and this distance is computed. The total station. So the total station is an instrument which uses EDM to measure and record horizontal angles, vertical angles and slope distances, and it is used to calculate horizontal distances, vertical distance, azimuth lines and XYZ coordinates and layouts, etc. Next comes the parts of total station, which is electronic theodolite, EDM, microprocessor and storage system. So the theodolite is used for measuring vertical and horizontal angles, and the accuracy of angle measurement can vary from 2 to 6 seconds. Then EDM is a major part of total station. Its range varies from 2.8 kilometers to 4.2 kilometers. Then the accuracy is 5 millimeter to 10 millimeter per kilometer measurements. Then the microprocessor does the data processing. So it is inbuilt in total station. So with the help of slope distance and vertical and horizontal angles which we measure, it computes the horizontal distance and XYZ coordinates. And it is also capable of applying temperature and pressure corrections to the measurements. Then there is an electronic display unit which displays the various values, and the electronic book stores each point data and can be unloaded to computer and reused. Next comes the accessories of total station, which are retroreflector, track light or LumiGuide, and Geotronics Unicorn. So the retroreflector returns the beam of light in the path exactly parallel to the line of the incident. So it is basically the reflector. Then the track light helps in aligning the pole of the reflector along the line of the sight. Then the Geotronics Unicorn is a voice communication system which is mounted on the total station, which allows the surveyor to communicate the voice to the person standing at the pole prism. Next, we can look at what are the field procedures done in total station. So first is the preparation for measurements, second is angle measurements, and third is distance measurement. So in preparation for measurements, what we do is that we approximate the centering by leveling the circular bubbles. We can see the figure. The circular bubble is adjusted to the center by adjusting the tripod stand legs. Then the focusing and tilt corrections are done. Pressure and temperature units are checked and adjusted. And the battery must be fully charged before commencement of the survey. Next step is the angle measurement. So when the target is sighted, the horizontal and vertical angles as well as the sloping distance is measured by pressing the approximate keys in the total station. So they will be recorded. And as said above, the microprocessor then computes the various information about the points and displays it on the screen. And this information is also stored in the electronic notebook. So when this notebook is full, the information is downloaded to computers, and this downloaded data is used for further processing. Then we can look at the distance measurement. Here the horizontal distance equation is given by ht equal to SD into sine ZA, where SD is the line of sight measurement and ZA is the zenith angle. Then the vertical distance formula is given by VD equal to SD into cos ZA. Then the uses. So this total station is used for collecting large number of points, and it is almost used in all aspects of modern surveying for monitoring and controlling of construction works and layouts. Then we can look at the advantages of total station. As said above, it is so fast in doing all the field works with high amount of accuracy. And the manual errors involved in reading and recording can be eliminated. Then the calculation of coordinates is very fast and accurate. Then the data from the instrument can be employed for making maps or plotting contours and cross sections, etc. Then these contour intervals and scales can be changed in no time. Then the instrument within a small range is capable of adjusting to the level position by itself. So it adjusts itself without the help of the surveyor. Then the units can be set for distance, temperature and pressure as and when required.